Hello, beautiful moms and entrepreneurs. My name is Charisse Walker, and I'm your host of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. This is a place where we come together to learn, grow, and inspire. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs. My name is Charisse Walker, your host, and today I'm here with Donna Tashjian, and we are going to talk about some of those things that nobody really likes to talk about. But my question for you is, do you feel like there's something more for you? Do you feel like you are here for a purpose, but you don't know what that purpose is, and you're feeling stuck, or you're feeling like you're not good enough? Well, we are going to talk about all of those different things today. So without further ado, Donna, would you like to introduce yourself to our audience?
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Donna Tashjian, and it is easier than it looks to pronounce. I am the founder of Vibrant Living International. I have been coaching and mentoring, helping people to live vibrantly for over 30 years. So going back a ways, and I love to help people discover their purpose, to step into it. But even when we know we have an idea, it feels overwhelming
Yeah.
because how can I do that and all the things that moms do? How, when we talk to mompreneurs, we're talking about not just how to run a business, but how do I take care of my kids and how do I have a marriage or relationships and how do I do all of the things without feeling overwhelmed? Because just thinking about it, you like get all tingly and have trouble breathing. It's just like, there's just too much. So, just a little bit more about me personally. I've been married for over 40 years. I have 3 adult kids. I have 7 grandkids. I had my first business at 19. I've been an entrepreneur for a lot of years and learning how to juggle it all. And not that I do it all right, but it's discovering really how to get, I call it our sweet spot and how to do that. So that's a little bit about me. What do you think would be a good question to start with?
Well, I think that if you do know your purpose, and it's true because we're going to talk about imposter syndrome, but I want to talk to those people that there's 5 questions that you have to help people unlock their purpose. So, what are those 5 questions?
We make them really sometimes overwhelming in what those 5 questions are, but they are, who am I?
Mm.
Uh, where am I from? Why am I here? What can I do? And then where am I going? And that is like a 2-hour teaching I do.
Yep. Yep.
So covering that in this podcast will be a little bit to cover, but those are the 5 questions.
I love those. And I was actually raised on those questions. We talk about those things all the time because I do believe that if you know who you are, um, where you're wanting to go, and it's just, why are you here? If you know those, then you know who you are and you're grounded. And so
Yeah.
I do agree, it takes much longer to talk about those things. So we'll let people and our listeners, we'll talk about how to find you and what to do
Right,
later.
right.
But say that, okay, I've answered those questions. I know what I'm supposed to do. Like this book right here, the book that I wrote, Flipping the Iceberg, I know what I'm supposed to do with that. But it's hard because I'm starting that out.
Mhm.
And yet I have this very vibrant real estate and lending business. And so it's hard
Mhm.
to say, okay, well, I'm just going to stop doing that because it does very, very well to now go to this. And so then it's like you start to, okay, well, imposter syndrome. Oh, do people really want to hear about this? Or do they really want
Mhm.
to know this? Or, and so now, and I believe it's not more as imposter syndrome as it might be, you know, the person on your left shoulder, the devil, like whispering these little things trying to stop you from doing stuff. So how do you reclaim that, what we talk about or what you talk about, the God-given identity? And how do you get over that?
Yeah, one of the first things that I will comment on what you said is we seem to think it needs to be either or.
Yeah.
And what if it could be both,
Yeah.
at least for a while? And
Mhm.
and we sabotage ourselves a lot. We make ourselves freeze because I can't give all this up
Mhm.
and I don't have enough time to put into that.
Mhm.
So how do I do both?
Yeah.
And that's not the only thing you have going on in your life. I'm sure there's other stuff. There's other commitments, there's other relationships, maybe children and all the things as as we get to know each other. But we do the either or. And as soon as we do, I want you to notice this one thing. Either anytime you say I either get to do this or I get to do that, there's some type of limiting belief in there.
Mm.
And if you just pause and say, okay, so where did it say that I have to do this or that?
Mhm.
Now, I was a realtor for over 20 years, and I was doing that while I was building my coaching practice.
Yeah.
Because when I started coaching, I was doing it for free. It was just something I did. And it wasn't something, there's so many things that lead to our purpose that we just do without thinking why we do them. And it's just like, doesn't everybody do that? I do that. When it's just one of those things that,
Mhm.
and we don't recognize our own gifts.
Yeah.
And so when we say either or, and it came to a place where I'm like, I no longer want to do real estate.
Mhm.
I'm going to do this full time. I'm able to do this and really give my all. Now, was it perfect when I made that leap? No, it
Mhm.
wasn't perfect, but there came a time where it was like, okay, now I can make a choice, but I don't have to do either or. And
Yeah.
so I want you to notice that first of all, is that if there is a either or, I either get to be a great business owner or a good mom. That's a really common one, but who said? And so, what if there was a way?
Mhm.
And so, just saying that, well, what if there was a way? You
Mhm.
begin to think different and you see things different rather than it closing our mind to any possibilities of even God speaking to us. So, that's the first thing I notice about what you said. The second thing is we're so many times when we talk to people about starting a business, they're telling get a business plan, who's your market and what's your messaging, how are you going to do all of that kind of stuff? And your mind steps into overwhelm because all of the things, I'm like, I don't know how to do all that stuff. I haven't done all that stuff yet. And getting a business coach to help you do that, it's very analytical
Mhm.
most of the time. I'm different because I'm going to start with a spirit first. I'm going to start with who you see yourself are. And when we know the second question is where did you come from? Is we skip that a lot. And I'm not talking about the town you were born in. God created you for a purpose. You are intricately and amazingly formed. No matter what your upbringing was, God has a purpose and a plan for you, and He wants to know you. And so knowing whose you are and building that relationship and what does that look like? And I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about a relationship. And when we learn how to do that, it empowers us because I'm never alone, even when I may be the only one working on it. So many times when we're passionate and we have this business, I am the only entrepreneur in my whole family that I'm even aware of.
Oh, wow.
And so you're kind of odd when those kind of things happen.
Mhm.
And we always seem to hear people reinforce those fears that are going on the inside of us
Yeah. Yeah.
instead of finding the people that are going to reinforce the dream. And when you have a dream, a new idea, a passion that you're developing, your purpose, it's like a brand new baby.
Yeah.
And you don't want to share that baby. You don't just hand that baby to perfect strangers. You don't hand that baby to everybody. But we're so excited. We want to tell everybody.
Mhm.
And we end up then being discouraged because we've told everybody. We've told the wrong people, if you will. The people who've never had a dream or don't desire to do more and or whatever it is. And so it reinforces the fears. You mentioned the imposter syndrome. I'm keeping going. So if you have a question, just interject.
Oh,
But
I really like that. And I think because you said so much that I could unpack, but I don't want to because it's so good. And I think that sometimes, because in previous podcasts I talk about, there was one of my coaches that she said, okay, I want you to write yes on one side of a note card, no on the other. And so she's like, every single time you hold up this card, are you saying yes or are you saying no? Because you're saying yes to something and you're saying no to something else. And I think sometimes, like, depending on who you coach with or depending on different things, I do believe that. Like, if you're saying yes to this at this moment, like I'm saying yes to doing my podcast, which means now I'm saying no to following up with some other stuff. So
right.
our time, you can only do people think you can
Correct.
multitask. You can't. It's one
Can't.
thing at a time.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that for this hour I can do this and for this hour I can do this.
Correct.
And that's what I love, is that I want to make sure that our listeners know that yes, you can do multiple things. And I do, like
Yes.
multiple, not just that
Right.
business. But
Right.
it's how to manage your time. Like I've made a
Absolutely.
conscious effort now that school's back in session that I'm home to pick up my daughters and
Right.
ensure that I have time with them to talk about their day. And in the past, it's like walk home or do this. But no, I'm now changing my hours where it's like,
Correct.
nope, I need to be home at this time. And if you have a problem with that, well, I can talk to you later.
Correct.
Or we probably aren't a good fit.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your alignment advantage. And I love that you have all these like buzzwords, right?
Yeah.
That talks about your focus, your strength, and time for breakthrough. So let's expand on that for a little bit.
Sure. I do want to touch as well in the alignment part about the imposter syndrome in that is so oftentimes we try to fight fear
Mhm.
as if it's an enemy. And I'd like you to think about shifting that just a little bit
Mhm.
because that part of you that wants to keep you safe
Mhm.
is where's those fears come from.
Yeah.
And it's almost as if you speak to that part of you and say, I know you're afraid that we'll fail and we'll fall flat on our face.
Mhm.
But what if you just join with me and we'll just take one step at a time?
Mhm.
And that becomes an inner alignment instead of feeling like you're fighting yourself. Does that make sense? And so learning that your subconscious, your part of you, whatever word you want to use to describe that, is going to want you to belong and want you to be safe.
Mhm.
It's the core needs we all have. And if I do this, I'll use the story of when I began to go on videos. Now, I've been coaching a long time before internet. So, and I would do phone calls and Zoom was around, but nobody seemed to use it until COVID. And then everybody was using it. But even before that, it's like, everybody said, YouTube's the way to go, Donna, you need to do videos. And everything within me was repelling
Yeah.
against videos, which is hilarious because I'm on camera all day long now. And I'm like, I never, so I got my coach. I'm like, I got to figure out why.
Mhm.
Why is this such a thing with me? And being visible in my childhood meant I was in trouble or I was being ridiculed, made fun of, or it was it was hurtful. Something was hurting me. And so therefore, without even realizing it, going on video is now putting me out for the world
Mhm.
to criticize me and to be whatever. It was not positive. And I had to rewrite my story on what that meant. What did being visible meant for me? Because none of that was happening in my life today. It was stuff from my childhood,
Yeah.
but I was still living the story
Mhm.
today. And so it's recognizing the fears and embracing them as opposed to, I just need to suck this up and do it. Can you imagine doing a video going, oh, all right, I can do this. And then, like, it comes across completely different than coming from a place of love and peace and relaxed. And I'm just like, I'm here. And so, but instead of fighting that imposter syndrome, I've learned to help people to turn fear into excitement,
Mhm.
to rewrite your story because fear is excitement without the breath. Think about when you're fear
Mhm.
and what does somebody say? Breathe, take a breath.
Yeah.
And it's just so learning to change your fear into that. And alignment is discovering, and I don't know that we ever stop discovering
Right.
who we are
Mhm.
and what our gifts are. Who I was in my 20s and my purpose in my 20s was raising children. Well, I started my first nonprofit then, but it's just, but it's what was my purpose at that stage in my life
Mhm.
is different than now.
Yeah.
And so allowing your purpose to blossom, to grow, to expand instead of being rigid. It sounds like I don't know all about you and all the things, but you're involved in real estate, which you have a passion for, but then you have this book. And so you're multifaceted
Yeah.
of what you are and allow that to be. And not that you're not, but
Right.
just using you as an example and allow that to blossom and realize that different decades, I use that because there's really seasons,
There are.
you will be doing different purposes. And so, like, I had a vision in my 20s, I would be speaking on large stages. I did it some,
Mhm.
but what's happening today is completely different.
Mhm.
And so just because you get the vision earlier on in your life doesn't mean that it's for now.
Yeah, I agree with
It's
that.
something you're growing in and learning how to do better. And anyway, that's a little bit about alignment.
And to bring in that relationship with God, right? I do believe that if you listen, some people call it intuition, other people call it other things, but if you follow that and you're
Yeah,
listening to that because your gut, like there's this whole
yeah,
actual body experience I actually
there
talk about
absolutely
that
is.
the gut and the heart and the brain, they're all interconnected. And it's just fascinating to find out how it works. But if you're listening to that, you're being molded to
Yeah,
what you need to become so that you can, like the vision you had about you being on stage, you had to go through a journey to be able
I
to
did.
grow and to be able to do that. I remember I started teaching college at 22 and
Hmm.
it was sociology, right? And so I'm talking about these different things. Well, I didn't have life experiences at 22. Like I didn't.
Right.
I'm in high school, but these people that I'm teaching are much older than me, some old enough to be my dad at that point.
Hmm.
And I had no experiences that I could draw from because I hadn't lived life yet. And so I'm
Right.
like talking about TV shows and I'm talking about
Hmm.
different things to try to create um, some type of a connection. And it's
Hmm.
funny now because I look at myself, I wish I could be sitting in the room of me at 22 and go, oh my
Hmm.
gosh, you're so naive, you know?
Yeah, but you were doing it.
Yeah,
And
you're right.
and so celebrating that you did it, even if you didn't know it all, you know what you know today,
Yeah.
because that's always going to be the case in growing in that. Yes, I often, when I'm teaching on the spiritual intelligence, I will say, how many of you in the room made a decision when you didn't listen to your gut and you regret it? It's
Mhm.
like every hand in the room will go up because we've all not listened.
Yeah.
We've minimized it, talked ourselves out of it, all kinds. And some of them are quite serious situations that we could have saved ourselves from because our our intuition, our gut really does know. And it is connected to God in a way that we cannot, in our finite mind, even explain away. We keep trying to explain how it works, but how that mind body connection and soul and all of that is connected. But it is truth
Mhm.
that when you begin to listen and finding your purpose is starting with what brings you joy.
Yeah.
What do you do that's easy that you don't even think that much about? It's like me not recognizing fully that I was a coach until later on. It's just someone else said, "Donna, you're a coach." And I'm thinking football coach, screaming at people. And I'm like, that's not who I am. And I hadn't used that language
Yeah.
because it wasn't that when I started 30 years ago. It wasn't the language. So learning to what comes easy and then recognizing that you do have to grow in it. And I think that's one thing that's missing a lot today in our younger is that they want to go from college to CEO. And I'm sorry, life doesn't work like that. As much as we all would love it to work like that, but
Mhm.
you might start being the janitor or well, the lower level, if you if you want to call it that. But there is a learning curve to
Mhm.
go through in life to be able to do things even better. So if you're gifted at it, do something to grow in it. Because it doesn't mean you have to wait till you're 50 to be a master at it because you can grow and learn how to be it. So that is a lot about passion and purpose.
Mhm.
And my main passion when I was younger is was my kids. I wanted to be a great mom and raise amazing adults. And then, well, there was other things going on at the time. I'm never doing one thing, but
I don't,
but
as
you get the picture.
we just ADD like squirrel. As an entrepreneur, it's because I think that as an entrepreneur, you finally realize that you're not beholden to somebody else, that you have freedom, that you have ability, and that you have talent, and that you have the ability to follow your dreams and your passion. And then you realize, okay, well, I don't want to just pigeonhole myself in this. Like, I also want to do this. And then I also want
Mhm.
to do this. So I think as an entrepreneur, you start out doing this one thing. And
Yeah.
then as you continue to get more experience, then you continue to go into different directions. Like when I was getting my real estate license, like I was running colleges, I was opening colleges. I would never have thought that I'd be a realtor today, but
Hmm.
I love it. And I don't have to work the 70-hour weeks for
Hmm.
somebody else. I
Right.
get to work for myself. So yeah.
That entrepreneurship is a double-edged sword because I have nobody to be accountable to either. And
Yeah.
so you can make a lot of money or none. And so learning to be able to recognize and finding some place to be accountable is really helpful as you grow, whatever that looks like for you. A safe place that's going to encourage you and speak life into you and encourage that part of you to grow is important. It's one of the things I wished I had had earlier on.
And I was just going to ask you that question. So I'm glad you did. Is what do you wish you would have known? So let's talk about being a mom for a minute.
Okay.
I want you because now that you have grown, isn't adulting children hard?
It's
You know,
different.
yeah, yeah. But you're sitting on a park bench and
Mhm.
you are watching other kids and these young moms, and you're just watching this interaction. And now you who have gone through the entire life cycle of childhood, infanthood to adult children.
Mhm.
What, and this is going to be tough, so if you don't have just one, but what is one piece of advice you would give a new mom, if it could be anything?
Uh, Relax is one thing. And the other was don't take things so personal. I became a mother at 15.
Oh, wow.
So I've been a mom for basically all my life, pretty much. So talk about insecurities and thinking about failing and all of the things. And with my oldest, I had a little girl, I raised her. The conception wasn't consensual. So there's trauma involved in all of that. But one of the things that I did is I had to make sure she was clean, she needed to behave well because that was how good a mom I was.
Oh,
And if you do that, you're in for a rocky road because your kids are going to say things and do things that you're like, "Oh, that's not the way I taught you." And they they do the darndest things. And so that's one of the things is don't take everything personal.
mhm.
Because when we do, we parent them from fear instead of faith. And so that is one of the main things I wished I had learned earlier is how to not take their behavior. Even I had trouble with my oldest daughter and I said hurtful words, like really hurtful words. But it wasn't about me. It was about her own pain of her own that the what she was born and how all of that happened and what she was going through. But it was still painful to hear, but
Mhm.
learning not to make it about you is one of the biggest things in growing. Speaking life over your kids, what they're doing well, more than what they're doing wrong.
Yeah.
That's parenting from faith, not fear. Speaking, if they're good at math, encourage the math. They need to little grow in the other, but whatever they're good at,
Mhm.
emphasize that. Instead of the way our schools do is like they don't emphasize the math. They're bad at English and you need to spend all your time on English when actually they could go advancing in math. Not that they don't need to learn their English, but you get my point is highlight what they're doing well. So many times is don't do that or this bad thing will happen. We're parenting from fear. Not that you don't need to say those things, but I think I'm getting my point across is speaking life and parenting from faith.
I love that. And it's interesting because now I'm in the entrepreneur world, is what I call it, where, you can see the Russell Brunsons, the Grant Cardones, and I coach with them. I do. And Grant Cardone is fascinating to me. And people that don't know him, he's this real estate guru that started with like
Mm.
$3,000 and has built it to multi-billion dollar in 20 years. And it's really interesting to sit in a meeting with him because he's one of those that the mom probably was like, oh my gosh, he's just such a horrible kid. And he's very open about his story, which I'll let him tell. But It's interesting because he has grown, and seeing him in a meeting, because I'm in a pretty intimate room with him because of the program, and it's funny because he is so good at what he does,
Yeah.
but he's good at what he does. And so I imagine him as this ADD kid that was just a troublemaker in high school. And if
Yeah.
people, like if people could, and specifically teachers and parents, if we could recognize, like you talked about, the talents that our children have and focus on those, like a perfect example is the America's Got Talent, the
Hmm.
kid who he was blind and autistic, and yet he's this beautiful singer and piano player. And his mom was able to like
Yeah.
funnel into that. And I'm like, oh, but then you're like, oh, I was this horrible mom. I should have done better.
Right.
And it's not that at all. It's okay. How can you change for today? I was having a conversation
Right.
with my son yesterday, and he's 25, and I see the long road. Like I had him when I was
Hmm.
25. So I'm like, okay, you're my age. So you should be here.
Hmm.
He's not. And so it's like, okay, wait a second. But he is in his own road. And so he responded because we were talking about job career choices. And he's, in my opinion, another dead-end job where it's like, here's a career path, and he could have at least interview or apply. And he didn't. And so he's like, Mom, I'm an adult. I can make my own decisions. And I said, son, why do you have to say you're an adult? I'm very well aware that you're an adult. Well, because you're guilting me into this. I'm like, I'm not guilting. There's a misunderstanding. I want what's best for you, and to even just try for this. And I think, and he explained his reasoning and rationale. I'm like, okay, it's your life, Charlie Brown. It is. He's old enough
Yeah.
to make his own decisions. But I just find it interesting right now. My kids, it's like, what have I done? Where they're like, I'm an adult. It's like, okay. And I think
Yeah.
your advice of we have to relax and not own their choices is very
Yeah.
real,
It is very real. One of the biggest things I learned with adult children is don't give advice.
Yeah.
And it's
You're
so
not going to
hard
take it
because
anyway.
we've done everything, did you go to the bathroom? Have you eaten? Did you sleep? And all of the things all of their life, and all of a sudden they believe they're adults.
Mhm.
They're truly not adults yet, but they believe they're adults. We thought we were adults at that age too. And is not give advice.
Mhm.
It's ask questions.
Oh, I like that.
Unless they ask for advice, it's not wanted. And so what I've done is I pray for what I want for them in prayer
Oh,
and watch it change in the natural. I handle it in the spiritual.
mhm.
I speak life and what I want. Like right now, I'm praying for my grandkids' future spouse. He's 5 years old. One of them is 5 years old. So it's like praying into the future for
Mhm.
what you want in the future. I'm building a legacy now. It's not, I'm with mine. And so that is one of the biggest things is they don't, as soon as you start giving advice, they feel minimized.
Yeah, that's true.
And it isn't your intention. It's not what you're trying to do at all. But instead, if I could just throw an idea out there and about that other job is, son, did you see that job? What were your thoughts about that?
Yeah.
And shut up. It's so hard to shut up.
Yeah.
It's so hard to shut up and just shut up and say, okay. He gets like, I don't really like that field, Mom, because then you can hear what they actually are thinking.
Right.
But as soon as they get defensive, they're not going to tell you what they're thinking.
Mhm.
It's harder to get them to talk. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, but those are some of the things that I've learned the hard way.
That's so good because when he told me his reasoning why, I'm like, okay, now I get it. I'm not going to bring
Yeah.
it up again. All
Yeah.
right, so our time is way past. So my
Yes.
question for you is if our listeners wanted to learn more about you or have you help them, how would they do that?
The best way is my website, and it is the letter I, vibrantliving.com. I've got my blog, podcast, the way to talk to me, and any events that I'm holding are all on that. And so I'm also on social media, but that my website has all the latest information. So that would be great. It's been a pleasure to be here today.
Yeah, we could keep talking, but I know we both.
Yes, we could.
Thank you so much. And Unbreakable Moms, I hope that you've learned like what is your passion? What are you here for? And what do you want to do? And then having the confidence to step into that. We are here for you, and we hope that you go make it a great day. Beautiful moms, remember, you are unbreakable. Keep illuminating the world with your strength, pursuing your dreams, and reveling in the splendor of motherhood. This is Charisse Walker, bidding you farewell for now. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on the next episode of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. Until then, keep shining bright. Signing off with love, Charisse Walker.